There's only one reality where you will be rich, and that's the one where you say that. There's only one reality where you will be healthy, and that's the one where you say that. There's only one reality where you will have love, and that's the one where you say that. I guess you guessed that last one, right? This is the law of knowing. What you know to be true will be your life going forward. I will give you a secret to manifestation today. And secret that's such a marketing word. And maybe I'm just putting it in here so that you won't fry your brain and skip to the next video. Because I need you to stay here and change your life today. All right? So stick with me for a few minutes. Why am I saying that it's the one reality where you say it? Well, that's because who you are translates into your life experience. That's how manifestation works. And you are always rich if you say you were rich. You don't have other timelines. You are in the timeline that you state you are in. It's that easy. And people, they struggle with that. So did I grow up rich? Well, yes, you did. You were always rich. It was never any different, your reality, than the one you are assuming to be true right now. And that requires a deep level of understanding of consciousness for you to understand that. And that's the journey you are on. Consciousness, awareness, God, Allah, Source, whatever you call it, that's the same thing. And your best recognition of that is the awareness inside you, the part of you that just know that you exist. And if you are new here on the channel, you can close your eyes, you can observe the blackness, and then ask yourself, who's observing this? And that's the part of you that is consciousness, that is aware of being. And that awareness has no labels. It has no age. It's observing you, your belief about having an age, your belief about having a certain eye color or whatever. But that awareness is not that. That awareness is aware of that. And it's that awareness that manifests. It's that awareness that is your light, your eternal frequency. Right? All at once, it's just aware. So imagine this light coming at me right now. That's you manifesting. Then you throw an idea in that light. Can I give myself a shadow? I can't actually. But imagine that I could shape my hand in the way of lack. I could put it in front of me, and I could look at my face in the mirror, and I could say, I don't like my face. Not recognizing that I'm doing it. I'm blocking the light so that it can't show me my manifestations. But I'm always the light. And I'm also this idea. And I'm also this that I'm looking at. Right? And this is where we begin in the video. It's a very strange concept for those of you who have not tried this before. But try to go with me on the idea that your observer is the light. The assumptions, the knowing that you have in your mind is then whatever you put in the light, and then the reality you're looking at is the shadow of that light. And you are telling me, but I struggle manifesting. I struggle changing my reality. And I say, but that doesn't make any sense. To put I struggle in as the new figure. So then I would change whatever I put into the light, I would put I struggle. If I could cut that out, I struggle in paper, and I could put it on the light, what would be reflected? I struggle. That's how the mirror works. It is not sometimes, it's always that's how you create reality. Whatever you put in the light. What are you aware of being? Right? So you could put anything in that light. And imagine that if you had a wooden floor and you have carpets on it, do you know, maybe you know it from your own house, your grandparents' house, whatever. If you move the carpet, you will see a slight tone difference in the wooden floor. Some of it has gotten a lot of light and the other part does not. So a wooden floor changes its character based on light. Imagine that's how you actually create reality. So once light starts to shine at whatever you put in that light, so your idea of yourself, it starts changing the nuances of reality. So the idea of the manifestation is instant. So whatever you put into light begins transforming reality at that moment. But however you see the reflection in reality, you see it over time. So you're not changing a now moment, or you are, but you are changing a total life experience. Where the way reality is being reflected in you is then different. That also goes to say, as I always say, so it does not make any sense to go out in reality and say, let me look for riches. Because what you're looking at is you. You are external reality. So instead, it makes much more sense to say, how do I position myself correctly in the light, so whatever is left of me in reality will be rich. So if I position myself as rich, reality will show me rich. So it's not, can God give me what I want, but can God find it in me? Right? Very powerful. I have a few more examples to really solidify this in you, so stick with me. So if I put something new in the light, right? If I cut out lack or struggle, whatever you sit with right now, and I show it in the light, you get a shadow, right? If I take a new paper and cut something else out and put it in the light, then you would say, as a human being, the shadow changed. And I'm saying it looks like it changed, but it's a new thing you put in the light. The light did not change. You did not change. Whatever you put in the light is a new thing. So it's not like the other piece of paper was ever this new piece of paper. It's two different pieces of paper. It's a new timeline. So you can't change your current reality. That's a fixed movie script, but you can shift. And when you shift, it was always that. So that piece of paper I put into the light, it did not ever change. It was never the other piece of paper. The shadow looks like it changes, but it's because you are different. The light is not different. The light is just the light, all potentials. And you can put nothing in the light. You can be present, and then you will actually have all availabilities of all timelines at your fingertips. Because the next thing you put in your light will then start to cast a shadow. Now we're really getting deep into this, because now you recognize, okay, the shadow might be a positive thing. Well, it's the leftovers of you. So yeah. I will try to explain this also with frequencies. If I had a bass player or something like next to me, I would ask him to play a note for you right now, a very, very high, annoying note. Right? And that's the note you like. You love that note. You play it every day. I struggle. And every time you say a word, you send out a frequency. Your knowing translates into the collapsing of a specific timeline. So you say a frequency, I'm rich, that's a frequency. That's some knowing. And you say, I struggle. And imagine that note to be so high that it can break glass. Okay? That will be important later. Breaking glass. It's a funny example, but stick with me. And you would ask me, how do I become rich? And I would say, why? It's because you're saying, and you need to say, right? And you say, but I see, yeah, but you see, and you see the broken window because you say it. Say, and imagine that frequency then changing. So if you could see the waves, if you have ever had like physics or something in school, you'll notice how a wave function looks in a certain way. And these two waves, they are different. They are different, right? So you could say, okay, how can I say when I see this one? And I'll say, but that question only makes sense in physical reality because you believe in that old tune, because you can actually just say the new tune. Right? And you say, but I used to be that tune. But that new tone never used to be anything other than that tone. It's a new timeline. It never was that tone. I know that you see it as the same thing, but it never was. And if you ask me, but when does that tone stop? And I would say, that depends on physical reality. If there's something interfering with that tone, it will stop. If there's something blocking that tone, it will stop. But if it's not blocked by anything, that tone is forever. And it goes in both directions, that tone. That wave, that will just translate into everything. The moment you change the tone, if you are playing the guitar, it's not like a part of the string plays one tone and the other part. No, it's a different string. And if you could measure it, yes, there would be a small delay of where that tone would finalize itself so that you could hear the new tone. And that's the delay of your manifestations. The delay between the two tones. But you won't stick to your tone. You continue going back to that tone. So imagine you're saying, and it breaks glass, it hurts you, you hate that tone, and I'm asking you to say, and you keep on being convinced to not to say it. So you say, oh, did I do it? Did I visualize correctly? Right? So you, instead of sticking to your tone, sticking to who you are, I'm rich, you leave it. You leave I'm rich for what else you used to create. Right? You can stick to a tone, and that tone is the only tone that ever was when you pick that tone. But you go back to the old tone, thinking, but I need to take care of that tone. And what I'm saying is, no, reality is a reflection of you. That new tone, that new frequency carries its own reality. And it changes everything about you. It always was that tone. That tone was always that tone. So that version of you was always that version of you. And nothing can actually stop it unless you change the tone. Unless you decide to change the tone. But I struggle to say that tone, which is another frequency. But I've tried, but it's not shown, which is another frequency, because it does not make any sense to say it has not shown. Because it's a totally different thing to assume to be true in reality. It's another assumption, as Neville would say it. And that's why I say, and Neville said, I say that your knowing manifests, your story manifests. And Neville said that any assumption persisted in hardens into fact. And it's not sometimes, it must. No matter what assumption you pick, it must harden into fact. Because that frequency carries its own reality. So it does not matter what your old frequency had in reality. So your thoughts, your emotions, your dreams, people in your reality, that does not really matter. What matters is who you say you are. Because that's the only thing you're putting into this eternal light. So when we talk about the now moment, you think that you have a now moment now, and now, and now. But that's because you're putting a now moment into physical time. But you have only a now moment always. It's eternal. If you have a hard time figuring this now moment out, close your eyes and sit in that awareness and find out for yourself that it's not sequential. It's just always. You can change what is in that now moment. And that defines the entirety of that now moment. It's only your mind construct that will tell you, but there used to be something else in the now moment. Right? That's the mind construct. That's the devil playing you a trick. Because that's only what you put in the now. And when you put it in the now, it's the only thing that is the now. So that's where you're cutting out something in paper and you're putting it into the light. Maybe you remember it if you are old enough to have seen these machines in school where you it was like a projector, so you could put pictures and images on this light machine, and then it casts the reflection of that or the leftovers of that on a screen. That's how you used to do stuff in school in old days. But that's you putting whatever you want to see in reality on a piece of paper and put it in the light. So you put your ideas of yourself in the light, and that is what you will see. And you cannot really put on the paper tomorrow. It will just start to shine. It will start to cast a shadow in your reality. The wooden floors, they will start to be affected by it. So your reality, the experience of your reality will change. How and when is not really important. You state the end frame. What would I like to see? Who am I? And then it must be like that. And you can have plenty of broken windows from your old frequency. But that does not really matter at all. Because every time you say, but reality shows me something. Well, let's make a paper, cut it out. What does it show you? Let's put it in the light. And then let's realize that you taking what is in reality and putting it into the spotlight in the now moment is you creating it again. It is you giving that thing you don't want another opportunity of survival. But you need to starve it. That's simply the only way you can have everything you want, is by having everything you want. And some people will say, but how can I assume that I'm rich when I'm not? It's because you're so used to using placeholders, permission slips in reality, that you don't know that it's actually the idea in your head that translates into a knowing, not the thing in reality. If a scammer called you today and told you that you have won the lottery, you would be over the moon. Would anything have changed in physical reality? No, you did not win the lottery. But you would think that you won the lottery, so you would change your assumption. So maybe I would actually do you a service of doing that, because then you would assume it to be true, and that maybe you would win the lottery. Right? So you then in that example used him calling you as a placeholder for your own fulfillment. I could not assume that I was rich. I needed someone to trick me into assuming that. So it was your idea in your head that was the problem, not physical reality. So if you have pain in your body, imagine a doctor calling you and saying, yeah, pain will go over in a few days, but you're actually healthy. You would change the concept of yourself instantly. Instantly. It wouldn't take a second, right? Same with money, same with love. That's how it goes. So you can take an example if you need a permission slip, but you don't need it. But you can say to yourself, yeah, I'm a lottery winner in 100 days. I know I have the money. I just need to wait a bit before I have it on my bank account. You can use examples to fulfill you so that you can finally know stuff about yourself that is not showing. But you don't need it. You need to recognize the story in your head is actually yours. You've just stayed out of control for so long that you don't realize that it's yours. Right? You own a bus, and it's your bus. You're the driver. But you needed to take a break, and now someone else is driving it, and you forgot. And that someone else is your parents, society, everyone else around you. And you're sitting and you're complaining about where this bus driver is taking you. You need to realize it's your bus, and you're the driver. So you take control of it, and you spend more time in your internal world, because that internal world, whatever you put in the light, is then what is being reflected. That's how the mirror works. That's the law of knowing, and that's how you change your reality. So if you say, I'm rich, then you were always rich, right? That's a new tone. And it's true in that moment, and from that moment on, it will start to cast a shadow. And the more dedicated you are to only having that thing in your light, that is where instant manifestation suddenly becomes real. Because instead of saying, I'm rich, am I? Maybe I'm not. I need to say it 1,000 times. Then I can believe it. Right? I need to visualize, then I can believe it. Well, there's no trying in manifestation. In true manifestation, there's no trying. If you can know that whatever you put in the light is what manifests. And when you start practicing this, and I know there's a practice for some of you to leaving that old story, but then you will never find a good reason to remove it from the light. You will just let it rest there. That's the resting assumption of you and your system. Well, I'm rich, and then I know I will be. Well, I'm healthy, and then I know I will be. Because that's the important thing to know. It's the conceptual idea of who you are that you keep around. When you realize that nothing about me was ever true. It was just a reflection of what I put in the light. And yes, as a kid, parents put stuff in your light. They put bad stuff in your light. Society puts bad stuff in your light so that you can be aware of it. Right? And it's only as an adult, right now you're here, and that's a great first step. You're trying to take control. I'm proud of you, and you're doing great. But it's only now that you can really say, I decide what is in my light. I might not feel the control yet, but I will start to assume control. But I don't know what I want, Chris. Then put in the light that you know what you want. But I don't have any ideas, Chris. But then put in the light that you have ideas. Because then that will change you. So it's your story that's the problem. Right? In one of my comments on one of my videos, someone mentioned, I think it's a Jack Sparrow quote, where he says that it's not the problem that is the problem. It's your problem about the problem that is the problem. And that's true. I can't remember the exact quote, but it's nothing about your problem is true. So you can't ask me anything that I will regard as true if it's about your problem. So right now, if you're sitting with questions, imagine that you are here with me, having this light. And I would take whatever you are saying and I would put it between the light and reality. And I would say, what's it going to be? Are you rich? Are you not? I am not. Right? As within, so without. Very strange, weird video, but also very powerful, right? Get out of here. Talk soon.